Hey there guys, what is going on? Sai here and welcome back yet again to another Gran Turismo 7 setup video for the channel. Today guys, we've got the Ferrari F430. This car, in my opinion, is quite an overlooked Ferrari. I don't really see a lot of people using this car, and it is quite a shame because it's such a lovely and balanced car. The only thing you do have to worry about it's low speed corners with this thing, and also its throttle response. But if you can manage that, this car is absolutely amazing to drive, especially with these setups I have created. So let's go ahead and jump straight in. So for this car, we've got four setups. So we've got the maxed out setup, which is all unrestricted. We've got the 600 and 600 pp setup, the 650 pp setup, and the 700 pp setup as well. So let's go ahead and start with that. Start out with the maxed out setup and see how we get on. So for the maxed out one tires, you're gonna have racing soft tires. Fully customizable suspension with your body height adjustment set to 85 at the front and 125 at the rear. Anti-roll bar is set 6 and 8. Damper ratio compression is 32-34. Damper ratio expansion is 35-36. Natural frequency is 2.90 and 3.10. Negative camber angle is 0.5 and 1.5. Toe angle at the front is in 0.05 and in 0.25. I know it's quite weird having in and in on a toe angle, but honestly it does work on this car. Anything else just kind of ruins the handling of the car, and it kind of makes it understeering as well a little bit, especially out corners, which this car really does need. Also, one thing I forgot to say as well, another top tip for this Ferrari F430 is that you want to max out the revs completely with this thing. Just absolutely redline it. That's where the car, you'd notice the car just producing a little bit more power, more torque there. So that's the one way to go about it. Anyway, moving on now to the differential. You want to have the fully customizable differential with initial torque set to 5, acceleration at 25, and braking at 15. Moving up to the downforce settings, you want to have 200 at the front and 350 at the rear. I've tried different various downforce levels on this particular car. Honestly, there's not much improvement. Anything a little bit different than this is just going to get the back out pretty much more regularly, and it's going to just be a little bit more unstable. It doesn't really increase the handling so much, especially a higher handling speed as the Rational G suggests. But yeah, it's definitely needed to keep this car a little bit tamed. Anyway, ECU output is set 100%, power restrictor is at 100%. Now the transmission is the fully customizable racing transmission, and that is set to preset to 320 kilometers an hour. If you want to do like the La Sarthe or a little bit slightly longer straights, you can go to 330, 340 if you are going to be drafting a little bit, but 320 is a nice balanced figure for this car, and it doesn't reach the red line. Now moving down to the performance upgrades, no turbocharger, anti-lag, intercooler or supercharger on this particular car. We do have the racing air cleaner, racing silencer and racing exhaust manifold with racing brake system and pads. Now for your brake controller you can have that to -2 and to 0, but it also depends on the track. So for the Nordschleife I'll run it at -2, but for every other track I race on it's 0. Just kind of what works. Just basically you have to try out and see what works for you. Okay, so moving on now to the other setup. So the suspension stays exactly the same. You want to slap on racing hard tires for the 600 pp class setup. So suspension is exactly the same, differential is exactly the same, aerodynamics exactly the same. Your ECU output now is at 79%, power restrictor is at 70%, your transmission preset is set to 240, and you want to get rid of all the intake and exhaust upgrades. So pop that on normal, and that is this 600 pp setup. Moving down to your 650 now. Once again, this is going to be on racing soft tires now, so a little bit more grip, which is really nice. This actually handles sublime in my opinion, one of the best. But yeah, so suspension, differential, and aerodynamics is exactly the same. Your ECU output now is at 87%, power restrictor still at 70. Your transmission preset is set to 260, and once again your intake and exhaust is set to normal. Now moving up now to the final setting here for the 700 pp setup. This is once again on sport soft tires. Suspension exactly the same. Differential exactly the same. Aerodynamics exactly the same. Your ECU output is at 92%. Your power restrictor is at 100%, and your transmission is set to 300 or 310 depending on track. Uh, and your intake and exhaust setup now is all racing. So that is it for the setup, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed them. I'm going to leave you guys now with a reference lap around Catalonia.